Okay, very good morning, Reverend Balan Moses. Could you give us a brief introduction of yourself, your age, and how are you affiliated to Brickfields, whether is it now or in the past?
Okay, good morning. My name is Balan Moses. I'm currently a pastor of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Malaysia, and where we are having this interview is where the church was born in 1924. The structure, this is the first structure that was built for our members. Prior to this, they were in a shop house in Jalan Scott. I was born in 1955 in government quarters just opposite the church along Rosario Street then. Now it's called Jalan Rosario. And I had my early days in Brickfields from the time I was born to 1970 when I was 15 and I was in Form 3. And at that point, the family left to Sentul with my parents. My father was a pastor also of the same church, so we moved home. So my acquaintance with Brickfields stretches from 1959. Images I can remember of Brickfields start in 59 when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
So I still vividly remember what was happening then when I was 4 years old, because I was a curious little kid, so I was everywhere walking as far as my sisters and my brother would allow me. So that's a little bit about where my acquaintance with Brickfields starts.
Okay. What were your fondest memories of Brickfields?
Well, I have lovely memories that can never be erased by time. They are etched in my memory. Fondest memories. I've written a book called Brickfields, A Place, a Time, a Memory, where I've actually put on paper these memories. But just to talk of a few, I remember the orchard that was around this church. Believe it or not, there were easily 20 to 30 trees, mangosteen trees, yielding fruit every season. There was a durian tree, there were chiku trees, there were langsat trees. So it was a small boy's paradise, as it were. So I used to enjoy myself before I went at 7 to primary school, exploring this compound. That is one memory. Second one is flying kites. Something that has been forgotten by the generation subsequent to me. We used to run from Brickfields all the way to Bangsa to retrieve kites that had been cut, potong, by a rival flying his own or their own kite or kites. It was a fantastic time, no slippers, barefoot, but who bothered about that at that age? So we enjoyed that. And then of course I must talk about the food, the vendors who used to frequent our neighborhood over the stretch of the morning and afternoon and night, let's say about 18 hours, we used to have about 20 food vendors on bicycle, on motorcycles, tricycles, or they came even in vans, selling their multiple wares, as it were. So we were all foodies at that point. Every one of us, every race, every religion in Brickfields. So we would hail them and they would alert us of their coming by tooting their horns in a particular manner. So we know, oh, the Kway Teow man is coming, or the Char Siu Pao man is coming, or the Rojak man is coming, or some would make sounds, that only we would recognize as denoting a particular kind of food. So the food, it was food haven Brickfields was and is even until today.
Can you remember what kind of sounds?
Well, I know the sound. This is a bit funny. I haven't forgotten it. The Char Siu Pao's man's chant.
Oh.
If you want, I can
Yeah.
do that.
Is there
He would go, Char Siu Pao, Tao Sao Pao, Sang Yok Pao, Kai Tao Tai Pao, Lo Mai Kai. That was the intonation I picked up as a child.
Oh, that's nice. You don't hear that nowadays.
Yes.
Okay, what else? What else? do you
And then the kway teow soup man, the man operated the tricycle. His son used to cycle around with a saucer and a spoon, hitting the saucer with the spoon, tang 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 tang, and we know the kway teow soup man was around. And then you had the satay man who came on his bicycle selling satay those days, and he would toot his, that funny kind of poop, 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 poop. He would come with that. And then the vade man would go around carrying this contraption, wooden contraption on his head. He walked around miles and he would shout, vade, 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 and all that in Tamil, and variations of the word. So that was an evening thing, because vade sold well at tea time.
Yes.
And then you had this Indian Muslim man who carried kueh, the nyonya kueh, in silver, ever silver containers that stood about 3 feet to 4 feet tall. He carried it on what we call a kanda stick, a sturdy stick with both contraptions hanging on both sides. He would walk around and he would give us a very sort of an Indian Malay kind of word, kueh. I don't know I've forgotten how he pronounced it, but we know distinctively he was the kueh man. So these are some of the people who came. Oh, there are so many more. My memory fails me at this point, but these are the ones who stand out. Of course, there was one old lady, Sunday mornings at about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. She was hunchbacked, and she used to carry wicker baskets of buakana, kuaci, all those things that the Chinese community is familiar with, because there are a number of Chinese families in the 100 quarters, as we call those quarters where I lived. She would make her rounds. And then, of course, my favorite was the soya bean lady, bad-tempered lady. God knows what problems she was going through. So me and my sisters, my brother was always the good guy, never joined us. Me and my older sisters, we would taunt her because we know her bowl is 10 cents a bowl. From inside our house, we'll ask, 5 sen adaga? And she would let loose angry torrent of words aimed at us. So in my first book, I covered her. In my second book, I wrote a story about her, her imaginary life.
That's nice.
And how she got back at us.
Okay, all right. So now let's move on to Jalan Berhala. Yeah, because the purpose of this research is on Jalan Berhala. So Jalan Berhala has always been synonymous with cultural and religious practices. Yeah, so it's usually linked to Vesak Day, Thaipusam. So based on your knowledge and experience, what do you know about Jalan Berhala? And maybe you'd like to share some experiences with us?
Yes. A few things stand out in my mind about Jalan Berhala. It was called Temple Road when I was growing up. They changed it subsequently in the 70s to Jalan Berhala. Well, the temple, as the name suggests, Jalan Berhala, it was where perhaps the oldest structure, concrete structure in Brickfield stands. The temple dates back to, if I'm not mistaken, 1894 or thereabouts. And my earliest memories are going for walks. As a little boy, my sisters would carry me in the late 50s, or I would walk along with them as a toddler into the compound. It was an oasis of calm. Even today I remember, quiet. There was no traffic to come, the noise to come to our ears. All you would hear is people praying, the priest chanting melodiously, and of course we would go into the grounds, into the compound, and we would drink water from the standpipe. Oh yes, we would just cup our hands and drink water from the standpipe, and then we would go to the bigger temple where the sleeping Buddha lay. A stone structure in orange, and I would look at that structure and touch it in the heat, summer heat, in the April, May, June months. It's hot, terribly hot. It would be cool to the touch. So I still remember that touch, very cool. And then we would go to the tamarind tree and collect tamarind pods, which we would break there and then and enjoy as kids would, sour. That was fun. We couldn't afford to buy sweets or chocolates or biscuits. A middle class family, as it were. And then we would come out of the temple, and in front of the temple were large bungalows. Wealthy people lived there. They were mostly wooden structures. Those days you could hardly find concrete bungalows. Only the very, very super rich built concrete bungalows. So one of those houses, my brother's friend by the name of Rasa used to stay there. Rasa's house has a compound, a huge compound. We'll play football there. Can you imagine how big it would have been? We played football. And then we would just, wait for the chendol man to come after we played football for a refreshing ice cold cup of chendol. And then it's back home to do our homework from 7 p.m. night onwards. Our playtime for all the kids here in the 100 quarters from 4 to 6, 2 hours. Oh, we used to run riot. I had a few friends here, same age.
Yeah.
We'll play Kaunda Kaundi. It's a beautiful game. And then we'll play chopping. You have a small rubber ball and we throw it at whoever we want, our group. Whoever gets hit gets the ball, and his task is to chop others. Excuse me. So those are my memories. Of course, another memory, the Wesak Day parade or procession. We used to wait for those processions because my house is actually, you can throw a stone's distance from the temple. The church is in between my house and the temple.
I see.
So what we would do is wait for the procession to come on Wesak Day. And I still remember there was one float where there were dainty Chinese teenagers or girls, young girls, all very high. So you have to look like that or go upstairs and look level with them. It's on a lorry, a gaily decorated lorry. And they would be splashing holy water as they went along. And sometimes I would get a sprinkling of that water. And as a boy, I didn't know anything better. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But my father, being a pastor of the church, would tell us, just watch, don't participate.
Yes.
Well, there you have it. So these are my memories of Jalan Berhala.
Okay, thank you very much, Reverend. Okay, now let's talk about the youth of today.
Okay.
Yeah, we see a lot of Western exposure and a lot of Western influences on youth these days. So, how important is it to empower youth with teachings, religious and cultural teachings? so that they are more rooted. Yeah, maybe you can give your opinion on
Certainly.
this. Yes.
I'm an Indian by birth. I was born in this country. I grew up with various faiths and cultural practices. There's no way I could escape that. And so I imbibed a lot of good values from our Malayan, I was born when Malaysia was still Malaya, Malayan culture and then Malaysian culture and Asian culture in general. Some of the things that I would like to expound upon are respect for one another. My faith, my Christian faith tells me, I'm a pastor of the ELCM, I preach this, be kind to everyone. Look after the interests of the least among you, meaning the poorest, the marginalized. Christians, as a Christian I can say this as a pastor, look at those people's physical and spiritual needs. Oftentimes we look at our own needs or the needs of those who are of a similar ilk as us, like us, middle class and driving cars and all, but we need to remember the poor. So I make it a point to emphasize to the youth of today, respect one another. Also, respect the elderly. When I was a youth, of course, I would listen to the older people telling us, be respectful to the elderly. I wondered why. Now I know. Because the people of my age and my vintage, or even younger to me or older, we have various experiences in life. In specific fields of spheres of activity, which we can lend to the current, the younger generation, so that they will not make the mistakes we did. Basically, that's it. We don't want to teach or tutor.
Yeah.
That's not our intent. We just want to impart of our knowledge, our experience, and so that we could be of some help to the youth. I do realize that the youth have various influences impinging on them. The media is one. A big portion of their daily life is spent clinching the mobile phone, where you have TikTok, you have videos, you have Facebook. I myself am vulnerable. No? I am glued to it for an hour or two until I get reminded about reality. There's work to be done. So the youth of today have to be very careful about the negative influences from within Malaysia, from Asia and the West. But because most media that comes to us over the air is Western based, Google, internet, YouTube, you name it, a Western bias is there. So my advice to youths is be careful with what you hear, you see, because there is absolute freedom in the West. For good reason, Asian cultures do not advocate absolute freedom, because then, like America, you would be shooting one another when you get angry. Gun freedom is there. We don't have that. We have laws and we have discipline. And I believe this is a virtue of the Asian, I generalize, Asian culture. So this is my advice to youth. Don't keep away the media. Partake of the media, learn from the media, but you must be the censor. You have to censor what you absorb, you must censor what you discard.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you very much for that. Okay, so we go on to our next question. Okay, the Mahavihara Buddhist temple, as you mentioned just now, was established in 1895, so it's a very long time ago. and has always been a focal point for Vesak Day celebrations. Maybe you could share with us a little bit about the temple. Maybe there's a fun fact that the public do not know of. Something you can think of.
I really can't put my finger on something specific, except for the Vesak Day processions, where because of the thousands of people there, I was not allowed as a kid by my parents to go and walk around. So Vesak Day was just looking at the floats procession from my window or from the ground floor. As I said, the temple was always a ready source of tamarind pods. As a child, I used to enjoy it, and I still, maybe once in 5 or 10 years, I go around looking for pods inside. But I must say one thing, that is, I remember very fondly your chief priest at a certain point in time, Dr. Dhammananda. He was a man of great wisdom and a very good human being. And I, as an editor of the New Straits Times at that point in my career, used to write articles, columns about Brickfields, about the imminent transformation that took place in around 2006 and 2007-8. So I wrote a first book writing out my memories of Brickfields in the late 50s and the 60s, and subsequently, of course. So in the course of doing that, I spoke to Dr. Dhammananda, who was a great help to me of some things involving the temple, because I have a chapter in my first book that is called the Vesak Day procession. So this is what I can remember. Of course, it's been eons ago, and my memory is not as good as it used to be.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to sum up the last two questions. So in your opinion, as you can see, there's a lot of modernization, urbanization going on. How important is it for local authorities to preserve the cultural structures within this vicinity? And how much has changed from before until now? What are the changes that you experienced, the prominent ones?
Yes. I grew up in 4 rows of quarters, government quarters for middle-ranking civil servants. My family lived there from 1949 to 1970, a good 21 years. I was born there. Those quarters were built in 1915. So they are very, very old and unique. Their architecture would take one immediately back to the turn of the century. I crusaded for the authorities to preserve those quarters. And I wrote articles. I had a column in the NST where I wrote about things close to my heart, and those quarters were close to my heart. It was a losing battle, but in the process of writing about those quarters, I alerted people who were born and bred in Brickfields about the other historical structures in Brickfields. And my plea then and now is to the authorities, the local authorities, please maintain these structures. If you can help us with some funding, because these are old structures, if we do it in our own initiative, it may cost a bomb. So let's do it hand in hand. These are tourist attractions. On Sundays, when I have my service in the morning, from the altar, as I look out, I see handfuls of Westerners, Asians, with tote bags and haversacks coming and taking photographs of our church, outside and within. And they are tourists. So why don't we build on the wealth in the structures here? The Lutheran Church, 1924, the Vivekananda Ashram, 1904, the temple, the Buddhist temple, which is 1894, the Sri Kandaswamy temple, which is 1908, but the starting of the temple was 1894 as well. I did a little bit of checking on that. So let's keep these structures as they are with some funding and put them on the tourist map. Brickfield's transformation is at its midway point. 2007 or 8, the KL Central complex came about. That was the first sign of the start of the transformation. The transformation picked up speed after that. One has to. It was a transportation hub, a much needed one. But I had contact with the managing director of the company undertaking that project, and he told me, he gave me an assurance that his company will not touch the historical structures. But by then, the 100 quarters had already come under contract for demolition. So he was a very nice man, and he told me, I'm so sorry, I can't do anything about this, but now I know that the structure, the structure, the building that has come up where the 100 quarters stood, it's called Central Suites. It's a huge complex of condominiums and commercial places. There are plans to have a historical heritage center there. So I came to know about it, and I thank God that that place will help a lot in reminding people of Brickfields and visitors what this place once used to be like. It's like opening a history book.
Yeah.
Even if you walk now in Brickfields, you're taking a walk through the pages of this book.
Yes, yes, yes. I actually read the book. Okay, I think that's about it. We are on time.
On time, praise the Lord.
Yes, so thank you very much,
My
Reverend.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.